From the William B. Travis Building in Austin, Texas, we're keeping Texas energy on track. Here's your host, Bryce Doobie.
Welcome to Texas Energy on Track. I am your host, Bryce Doobie, joined as always by Nick Cranock, my co-host and producer. Nick, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Glad to be back in the studio. And this is an episode where I think we've teased it a few times in a couple of the other episodes, but it's great to have these two guests in the studio for, I think, the only second time we've had two guests in here. But I think this is going to be an exciting one, especially because we've talked about it a little bit before.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are also, for us personally, familiar faces. We all do work in the same office. When we had our previous guest on here, Christian Goff, she spoke about the two kind of pieces of what we do here on the communication side and the Office of Public Engagement side for the Railroad Commission. So we are overjoyed and more than happy to have our office mates, Scott Srofe and Tiffany Cotledge. Scott, you are the director of the Office of Public Engagement, and Tiffany, you are one of our public outreach coordinators. Thrilled to have you guys on.
Thank you.
Yes.
Glad to be here.
Happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourselves as far as your backgrounds and things like that. What brought you to the Railroad Commission? What's your kind of backgrounds, things like that?
Yeah, so before the Railroad Commission, I was at the University of Texas at Austin, and there I became acquainted with the energy industry when I was helping out their graduate engineering program. They offer a lot of those professional development courses, all centered on the energy industry, and so I would help out their team with a lot of the communications work, their social media, and from there I was able to just bridge that gap of explaining these more complex energy topics to a wide general audience. And so that was the perfect jump to go to a role like this, where I could do that same sort of work for the general public.
And how long have you been here at the RRC?
I'd say I've been here for about a year and a half now.
Yes, we interviewed Tiffany and right before she graduated from UT, and we knew exactly this is who we want in this role. And we were so thankful that she said yes. And she started like a week after graduation. Mm-hmm. So we were excited to have her here and still very excited to see what she's done. She's done a lot of the travel, like you said. She has accomplished some road trips where she'll be gone for several days at a time, visiting several cities at once in a general area. And that's been great for us to have a wider reach, all in one fell swoop.
Because I think that's one thing we necessarily forget. We all know, but Texas is really big, and y'all can speak to that way better than I can, I think. But I mean, you guys are on the road, and it makes sense, like going out to some of these areas. Hey, we're going to go down to the Valley, or hey, we're going out to West Texas, or to East Texas, or the Panhandle, or any and all in between. So it absolutely makes sense to really get the most out of an area while you're out there. And for you, Scott, like what's your background with the RRC? How long have you been with us?
I'm starting my 5th year with the Railroad Commission. Started out in the Communications Division before we started the Office of Public Engagement. I started out in a role very similar to what Tiffany's doing now, and then moved into the director's role here. I've been the director of the Office of Public Engagement for a year now. I came to the Railroad Commission from the Texas Department of Agriculture. I was in the marketing division there. I was doing produce horticulture marketing for TDA. And then I also started working at TDA in the events and outreach program for the food and nutrition division, doing a lot of what I do now, just on the federal side of the food programs.
So first and foremost, Scott, I mean, going to you, what is the Office of Public Engagement? I mean, it sounds fairly straightforward, but what is it? Kind of why was it created? What do y'all do?
Sure. That's a great question. The Office of Public Engagement is really out there to be that liaison to the general public and the RRC. We want to make sure that people understand who we are, what we do, how we regulate, and how they can be involved in our regulatory processes and procedures.
When we're talking, so is that folks in industry? Is that the general public? Is that any and all?
We want to focus on areas like community engagement and getting involved with those people who live in the areas around oil and gas activity and have questions about what's really going on and what's right, what's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always something we just sometimes take for granted as Texans, and you're driving through the state and you'll just see a pump jack or you'll see some sort of station up and running somewhere and you don't even really think about it, but then you might have questions and things like that. So it is kind of important. Like, hey, well, is that always been that way or is it supposed to do that? And just like, hey, who can I reach out to?
Exactly. That's one of the main things we want to try to do is we want to be a resource. We want to do that more than anything. When we started the Office of Public Engagement, we were already doing outreach as an agency, but most of our outreach was limited to that industry niche. And so we wanted to really go ahead and look outside the industry itself and say, who do we really need to reach? Who do we really need to let know about what's going on? And that's the public. So we created the Office of Public Engagement with a mission of being service-oriented, being education-minded, and having outreach as one of our main focuses.
So what are some of the, when we're talking outreach, some of the venues you do? I know in the communication side, we put out newsletters and do social media and press releases and things. What sort of outreach engagement do y'all do?
Some of the most common venues we go to for outreach include being there boots on the ground at Rotary clubs, Chambers of Commerce, Lions clubs, a lot of these civic organizations that a lot of the leaders of the community attend and are well connected within. So that's a great venue for us, being a part of the local community there and better understanding their problems and their challenges.
We're also doing trade shows and events. We're trying to get in festival circuit mode where we're going to be out in the festivals where we'll see people just passing by and who say, okay, oh yeah, the Railroad Commission, I need to ask them a question. So we want to be there to answer those questions for them.
Yeah, I remember back when I was at the Veterans Commission years ago when I was with communications outreach there, and we would go do that same sort of thing. It's like, hey, we're going to go set up a table at this thing that has nothing to do with veterans overall, but we're going to be there just in case someone will, hey, what can I do to get in touch with the VA? Like that same sort of type thing.
Exactly. So we're already looking at some county fairs for this coming year, trying to get involved in just grassroots movements of people that might have questions that we can go ahead and answer for them.
What are some of like the more common questions that folks do get? I know, I'm sure, because you get ones from landowners, you get ones from folks who just live in an area, things like what are the things that you're generally hearing?
The most common question is, you don't do railroads? Then why is your name the Railroad Commission? So we get that one all the time. We also get questions about, you do oil and gas, so why are gas prices so high at the pump? So we're trying to clear up some of those common misconceptions that people have and try to make sure they understand who we are and actually what we do as a state agency.
Absolutely. And also at the same time, what we can't do as a state agency, because there are other agencies that certain things fall under as well, TCEQ, some of our other partners.
Right. Tiffany and I were talking about that earlier today, saying that there are so many areas where we cross lines between TCEQ or even a city and municipality. That municipal government would be in control of that situation, such as noise or lighting on a drill site. People don't understand. We have nothing to do with that. So we want to make sure that they know who they need to contact in any situation.
And I think that's one thing that, just having been here now for a while and seeing y'all kind of operate again, we all work right next to each other, so I've seen sort of the flow of it. You guys do a really good job with just the general public reach, because we all just get phone calls at our desks sometimes, and it'll be a landowner somewhere or somebody, and they'll just be like, hey, I've got a question about this. And you guys even handle just some of those initial queries from just the public, just out cold calls almost.
We get those, and we also get public assist emails. So any emails that come in to the general agency inbox, we answer those for the most part, or we hand them off to a subject matter expert that is better equipped to handle those. But a lot of those questions we answer ourselves, such as gasoline prices or railroad questions, those common things that people just automatically think of when they think of the Railroad Commission.
Yeah, I can't even, just off the top of my head, how many times I've put someone on hold and gone either your desk, Scott, or Tiffany, like, hey, someone's asking about like their lease on their property. Who do I need to link them up with? And I forward it over to you guys, and you guys run with it. So you guys are an invaluable resource just for helping out the general public on a regular basis. I guess speaking to some of that, going to you, Tiffany, one thing I do know with your role is you, and we've had Raphael on the show as well before for our Veterans Day episode. Y'all are on the road a lot. Tell us about what that kind of looks like. And I know, Scott, in the past, you've done a lot of that as well. When we're talking some of this outreach, getting out to these communities, whether it's a Rotary Club or a county fair or something like that, you guys travel all over this. You've seen a lot of Texas.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I mean, that's something I love about this role, is that no 2 days are ever the same. We get to travel to so many different cities and explore so many different environments just within the state of Texas. And as someone who grew up in Houston, I didn't realize how big the state was, how many different towns there were and different environments there were. So that's something I really enjoy about this role.
I know sometimes y'all will go out to places and there may be folks who are a bit more skeptical about some of the work that we do, or may have some more serious concerns and things like that. How do y'all approach that when you're maybe out at a fair or an event and someone comes up and is like, hey, here's a piece of my mind?
Yeah, I really appreciate when people are skeptical and concerned, because it shows they truly care about what's going on in their community. And we never want to dismiss those concerns. We always want them to feel listened to and heard. And so I think that's really the first step, is making them feel understood and that we're listening to their stories. And then from there, we can figure out how we can help.
It's always interesting when you have somebody who comes up to you almost angry about a situation that's going on. And then when we get involved and we start listening, like Tiffany said, and we can point them in the right direction of finding help. Texas Cattle Raisers Conference is a great example. There we see people, and we've usually got somebody from a district office there with us at the time for the conference. And so when we see a person come in with a concern, and we're able to point them right to a district office that can help them, and then their situation is resolved very, very quickly, they come back and say, the Railroad Commission really does care about what's going on. They really do fix the issue.
Yeah, I know it's something we've said on some of our previous episodes that sometimes you might see things in a piece of paper and it might be data points and things, but for individuals in these communities, like this is a personal issue. This is their land. This is their livelihood, these types of things. So
Exactly.
For them, it's a very personal issue. I'm sure you see some very passionate folks sometimes.
Yes, especially when you're talking to landowners, who are out there with just surface equipment on their property. And they're not getting anything from it except for maybe that initial lease or whatever, the payment for that use of that property. But then they have an issue and they can't get in touch with anybody. They don't know who to call. So we get them involved with a district office, and the district office is able to step in and be that person, the go-between, to make sure their conflict is resolved.
Do you find at a lot of these events, especially some of the conferences, there may be some people that, like you're talking about, maybe not necessarily worked up, but they come prepared with something to say, hey, I'm frustrated at this. But then once they actually see that we're humans too, you have that interaction that helps resolve things and maybe actually educate them where they're like, oh, okay, now I understand that more. And then they can actually go and help out other landowners or the like.
I see that all the time. It really is good to get into that conversation. Like Tiffany said again, it's really all about the listening process. We want to hear them and make sure that they understand that their opinion is valuable to us. It means something to us. And if we listen, then we can go ahead and say, okay, now let's work on trying to find a solution.
And you said listen twice during that, so I have no choice but to get right into one of your other initiatives that you run, is our new RRC listening sessions. Could you tell us a little bit about those? I know we're both involved in those, but this is really y'all's baby.
Right. We started the listening sessions because we wanted the public to be involved and just tell us what their concerns are. We wanted to be able to give them the opportunity to just speak their mind. We have subject matter experts on hand who will either take the concern and go back and look to ways that they can help solve the concern or help address the concern at least. And then we also have those subject matter experts that can say, okay, wait, here's what's really happening in that situation. So they may not understand it right in the moment, or especially when they're voicing their concern, but then they take a moment to say, okay, I've been heard and somebody's talking to me about what's going on. Now I really have a better vision of what's going and what's happening.
And for our listeners out there who may be unfamiliar with them, these are online roundtables, so folks can either dial in or join in. It's through a Teams call type thing, so they're able to come in and listen. I know we provide an overview in the beginning just about the RC for anyone who's brand new to all of it, and then it kind of just goes on from there with some really good, thoughtful dialogue in the ones we've had.
We wanted to make sure that this was accessible to just about anyone within the state of Texas. So we didn't want to limit it to just an online virtual component only. We wanted to make sure that we have that call-in number so somebody can call in from their cell phone, whether they're in a field, in their car, wherever they are, they can call in and talk to us just like they would be if they were on a computer somewhere. And we wanted to make sure that we have that opportunity to give them chance to comment and make a public statement. Not everybody wants a resolution. Some people just want to be heard, and we understand that. And so we want to listen to those things because there may be something that we may need to address in the future that will help ease their minds in the future. But we're not trying to solve every problem in our listening session. We want to just listen and do this so that we can have a plan to move forward.
Because some of it we can also get feedback, and I know that then some of these folks will bring something up and be like, "Hey, I really wish there was a better way I could get this on your website." And it's like, that's not a question, but that is perfect feedback. We'll take a look at that. And these, for folks who are interested out there, you can find more information on our website, just rc.texas.gov. There's a button right up front. They're held every other month, and all the registration information for the next one will be right there online.
If you can't find it on the public engagement page, we do have a button right on the public engagement page of the website that just says RRC listening sessions, and it'll take you to the information. We've got a list of frequently asked questions on that page and the registration button for the next session.
And a Spanish translation for folks who join who also want a Spanish option.
Right.
But it's been a very neat thing to happen. I know we kind of spun that up and it just kind of took off. So it's exciting to see that you guys are, as much as you're on the road, Tiffany, you can't be everywhere and you can't meet everyone's schedule. So having an event that is online that someone can dial in during a lunch break, time of day type thing, it just seems like that's a really great additional venue to reach folks who we might not be able to reach other places.
Right. It's such a convenient option, especially since so many people aren't able to make that long trip to our open meetings in Austin. So it's a great option for those across the state.
I know, Tiffany, you're out more. Scott used to be. And Scott, if you don't know, he has great stories and great recommendations of places to eat all across Texas because he's been there. But, Tiffany, like you were saying, you're in that role. You're going out everywhere. How do you tailor your outreach or maybe prepare differently from, say, like a rural area, maybe like a West Texas, like a Reagan County or, Shallow Water, somewhere like that, compared to like a Houston or San Antonio? Is there things you do differently or is it pretty much the same?
So in those rural communities, I find we definitely lean heavily into those agricultural landowner concerns. So you'll find us at those events like 4-H or those farmers conventions. And we focus on those topics that mainly affect and impact people's property. So maybe it's those abandoned pipelines on their land. And we even show them our GIS tools, such as the GIS Viewer. It's free and available on our website, but this will allow them to locate the sort of activity on their land or in their neighborhood. And then in urban areas, I think the conversation shifts more towards all this energy activity industry happening in those high density areas. And so we give them the resources to better understand, who these companies are, ways they can publicly participate and be involved in that permitting process. And if a region is seeing varying levels of activity, so some regions are seeing drilling, some regions are seeing more of those critical infrastructure concerns, we're able to address that and just basically specialize our presentations and our talks with these communities, all based on their region and what's going around in their neighborhood.
Right. Like you said, we really try to focus on what's happening in that specific area. We say, okay, we're going to be in Borger. So what's going on in Borger right now? Is there something that really is impactful that we need to address? We need to go in ready and to go. Or is it something that we can just go say, okay, we're going to give a general overview. And if you have any questions that pop up from our general overview, we'll be happy to answer those.
And sometimes these topics and these things, they can be fairly complex. Like we were talking something like seismicity out in West Texas or the permitting process and things like that. Like, what is your sort of approach if I'm just John Q. Public showing up and be like, hey, what are you guys doing about the earthquakes? Or like, what is your approach to really explaining some of these more nuanced topics?
One of the things that we do, like I said, we tailor everything based on the community or the area around it. So we'll try to make sure that we have a subject matter expert along with us as much as possible so that if we are going into an area where there's a lot of seismic activity, we're going to get somebody from underground injection control or field ops in some way to be there with us so that if those questions come up, it's not me going to have to say, I don't know the answer, but I'll get it for you. I actually have someone there who can be Johnny on the spot with an answer. And so we like to do that as much as we can.
So Tiffany, with your background, when you were describing what you were doing at UT and some of the things with communication with energy and with some of the graduate studies there and things like that, working with schools and things, I know that's something you've done a lot of, particularly this past year. What can you tell us about some of the other engagement you do with like schools and some of that space?
So our work with schools is probably the most fun or rewarding aspect of the work I do now. And we've built a lot of those strong partnerships with schools across the state. So not just the University of Texas, but also schools in the east around the Houston area, as well as in the south and up towards the Panhandle. And I'd say one example we've had was a field trip we had last year with the University of Texas's Department of Petroleum and Geosystems Engineering. There we co-hosted and we brought these K through 12 teachers as well as university students, and we brought them to these active geology and oil and gas sites. And it was incredible seeing how excited they were to see these concepts they talked about in class in person, and they were able to witness the full life cycle of energy. So how it comes from the ground and then it gets processed safely and where it all goes. And we were able to show them not only the incredible career opportunities that are available in this field, but also the regulatory impact the Railroad Commission has on all of this. So we're very thankful for all of our partnerships, allowing us to scale our impact and help Texans better understand all the energy industry that happens around them.
Tiffany's also done a great job setting up career fairs and STEM events. STEM events are very, very exciting for us to go into because we get to catch kids that are already interested in that engineering side of things, the mathematical side of things, and the science part. And so we get to talk to them and be a part of their life and say, the Railroad Commission is all about those things. And so it's been really great. And Tiffany's done a fantastic job of getting us in line with some STEM events. And she's got some that she was telling me about today that look really exciting again for this year. And then also not only the UT PGE group, but we also have Rafael is on our staff as well, Rafael Navas. And he is a veteran. And so he works a lot with veterans groups. And so not just the school side, but the veterans side, we're trying to get involved with veterans as much as possible, telling them how they can be involved in what we do at the Railroad Commission.
So, taking a broader look at all of this, what does success look like for OPE? With the caveat that anytime we're helping a citizen and all of that that's always going to be success. That's always one more step forward. Like, how do you track what you guys do as far as like achieving steps forward and improving transparency, et cetera?
We discussed this a lot this morning. We talked about what really is success for us. And honestly, my definition of success is if we get to talk to at least one person and get to discuss their need, listen to them, give them something that they can take away going, I got it, then that's success. It doesn't matter the size of the crowd or anything else, because we've had events where we've met a lot of people, but we really walked away going, was that really worth our time? Not necessarily because the meeting itself, but we just feel like maybe we didn't catch everybody's attention, or maybe we didn't answer a question that should have been asked or answered. And so we look at success as just, did we feel like we made a connection? At least that one connection. And then, yes, it is a success. That success can be a phone call. Like you said, we get a lot of phone calls. It can be a phone call. It can be an email. It can be a meeting. It doesn't matter. We value success by knowing that we've made a connection and made a difference.
And for folks who are out there who want to make that connection, I'm all the way in the furthest reaches of the Panhandle, or here in Central Texas, or wherever, how can we invite members of OPE to come out to our community?
You can email us directly at publicassist@rrc.texas.gov.
Scott, Tiffany, thank you guys so much for joining us. This really has been it's been a good conversation. It's challenging because I again sit next to you guys all the time. Nick and I know what you guys do, but I really hope that our listeners out there were able to get a better sense of what we're doing to really help improve outreach and communication with the public all across the state, because you guys really do both put in the miles and just put in the work to really help fulfill that mission. So thank you guys so much for what you do, and thanks for joining us today. I think that kind of wraps up this episode. We've got some more good ones lined up in the future. Again, every 2 weeks. If I wanted to listen to this podcast or tell my friends about it, how would I go about doing that?
I'm glad you asked that, Bryce. You can always follow us along. First, I'll plug the social media on X at TXRRC, LinkedIn and Facebook, Railroad Commission of Texas, Instagram at Railroad Commission of Texas. We are also on YouTube. You can search for, you guessed it, Railroad Commission of Texas. And then the one I forget, but I remembered this time, rrc.texas.gov, the website. We have, loads of information there. And then, of course, where you're listening to this, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we're on Audible, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. We make sure we have it all covered on the major podcast platforms. So make sure you subscribe, because you'll get those notifications when a new episode is out, so you can stay on track with the episodes and the new releases that we have every 2 weeks on Wednesdays.
It's always just, there's so many different places you can find us, so much good information, regular updates, information, as well as on our website, reaching out to Public Assist if you do want to either have a question for the commission as well as seeing if you can get Scott or Tiffany or members of their team to come out and do a presentation in your local community. So as always, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll talk to y'all soon.